New York's Democratic Attorney General Letitia James is now threatening to seize Donald Trump's assets if he can't pay that egregious penalty in his civil fraud verdict.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets. We are prepared to make sure that the judgment is paid to New Yorkers. And yes, I look at 40 Wall Street each and every day.
She can want to liquidate places like Trump Tower and Park Avenue and Avenue of the Americas as well. And there's plenty of Trump properties here in New York. But that doesn't mean he's not going to appeal, because last night he said he was asked by Laura if he's made a decision about paying the money, which is a lot. Even if he appeals it, he's going to have to pay a lot to put up all the money. He said, quote, "We'll have a lot of cash, but that doesn't mean he can take it."
We'll have a lot of cash, but that doesn't mean he can take it. I mean, you know what he did? I think he looked at my cash and he said, well, we'll take all of his cash. Letitia James is horrible attorney general in New York, campaigned on I will get Trump, I will get Trump. They're sick. And this judge is sick. He got overturned on this case so far, overturned by the appellate division 4 times already on this case. It is a form of communism or fascism. The guy's a nut job. I've known this for a long time, and I've said it openly. No jury, no anything. We went through a trial. It turned out we're totally innocent on everything, and he fined me $355 million plus interest and other things. If I didn't run, I wouldn't have any of these lawsuits. You know that. None of them. They would have gone on to the next. And look, Nikki has no chance, but if she ever did, they would go after her the same way. These are vicious people. These are vicious, sick people. They're sick. I don't care about the revenge thing. I know they usually use the word revenge. Will there be revenge? My revenge will be success. I wrote this out because it was so great. The 8th Amendment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. That's the 8th Amendment. Excessive fines. I mean, you know what he did? I think he looked at my cash and he said, well, we'll take all of his cash.
And does that indicate that the former president plans to pay this bond, whether he's going to do the bond or pay this outright in cash, because he says that he essentially has that much cash? Is that the case?
I actually agree with my client's sentiment. I just want to add something that most Americans don't realize. Ms. James started out asking for $250 million. When she got a glimpse of just how wealthy the Trump organization is, because they're a successful business in the state of New York, because they employ thousands of people and pay hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes to the state of New York, she upped that. She upped that ask. Why? Because her goal was to try and hurt the president, try and hurt his family, his company. And quite honestly, all I can say to that, without breaking my privilege and giving her a glimpse, which I would never give her the courtesy of having, into our strategy, is that she has no chance.
You hear those Letitia James comments, because you've been pretty outspoken about all of this and what it might mean for New York and businesses in the recent days. The idea of, you know what, we might seize his assets.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, what do you make of that?
So you remember, I have to look at all of this through the lens of being an investor.
Right.
So I don't make money with politics. I make money with policy. So I care about policy. Now, one of the reasons that the United States of America is the magnet for so much sovereign wealth from all around the world is our law, is our justice system, and the perceived fairness of it in every state. And so if you're going to put billions of dollars to work somewhere in the world, the most coveted place to do it is in the United States of America. That is the brand of America. That's what it is. You don't really want to mess with that. You really want to make sure, no matter who you are, and this is not about Trump, this is not about politics, it's about what is America and capital and capitalism. And what does it mean when all of a sudden this starts to happen in any state? Forget about New York. Seizing assets happens in many countries where you wouldn't want to put your money. When the government can just decide, look, no monies were lost in a case, a rogue judge, in my view, that's a rogue settlement and should be reviewed, and it will be through the appellate courts. And remember, there's extreme cases where the Supreme Court came through and said, no, this is so offside, BMW had a case, I think, in the late 60s where they fixed that from the Supreme Court level. So I'm assuming this case is getting so much international scrutiny, it doesn't make you feel very good as an investor to watch this happen.
Are businesses pulling out?
Level-headed Democrat, does this worry you going in this direction?
So a couple of things. I think the judge laid it out well, what the law is here. He's got 30 days on this appeal, but he's got to show he has the assets for this. As an aside, I would not have gone on ABC News or NBC, for that matter, Fox, anywhere, if I were the Attorney General. I mean, she's up one. Yeah. Well, she's up 1-0 in the sheet. The former president was found liable, and a big judgment was rendered against him. Mm-hmm. Now he has an appeal. I actually think the former president, just my surveying of it, looks like he may have a stronger appeal here than he does in some of the other things. Largely because this law, in addition to everything that's been said, was really designed to protect the consumer. And the consumer has not been hurt here. So it'll be interesting to see what the higher court says. But all they're doing is following the rules here. And again, I think it's a bad look for the Attorney General to be out doing these things. She's up 1-0. Let the court make the next step. And then if indeed you're going to do these things, let the process play itself out.
How bad does this politically, does this backfire on
her?
Democrats? Yeah.
Oh, I think a lot, because she's overzealous, partisan. She has no dispassion. Like, she's very passionate about going after one person. And it shows, instead of just following the law. I also think that for a lot of people across the country, I still actually don't understand it and don't agree with it, that you have to pay a fine like that before you can appeal. That seems really wrong.
Well, you just have to show the assets. You don't have to give them the money.
But even with that, it just seems like, even if you don't like Trump, you could look at this and say, that seems unfair, and it feels like there are two systems of justice. I do think that it always takes the media too long to catch up to people like Fani Willis or Letitia James, but eventually they do. And let's just say they get $400 million. Is that going to go to pay the $10,000 per migrant for their debit cards? Is that the kind of reinvestment? Or can you go to 37th and 8th Avenue and clean that crap up? Because it is terrible in this city. They've got, like, she's the Attorney General. Like, you could do so much more than going after this and causing big problems for Democrats in the long run. But I guarantee in her circle of friends and her text threads, they love it. They think she's dining out on this every night.
I don't think this case is about Trump anymore at all, because you heard the governor of New York come out yesterday and say, look, everybody, don't be scared about doing business in New York, because the only people we prosecute are people like Donald Trump who don't behave well. That didn't go over very well with the investment community, because we're all asking each other, who's next? This was a victimless crime. Nobody lost any money. And a judge out of nowhere put on a $355 million penalty. I mean, who's next?
Wouldn't there be many companies who would not want to do business or loan money to people like yourself or investors if they know that they can get away with fraud and there's no recourse to protect them?
Excuse me, what fraud? This is not about Trump anymore. When you get a developer that builds a building and he says it's worth $400 million and he wants to borrow $200 million from a bank, which happens every day, everywhere on earth, including every American city, every developer is an entrepreneur. They shine the light on their building and they say it's worth $400. The bank does its own due diligence, as was done in this case, because they're very good at it. The banks are very good, and they say, no, it's worth $300. We're only going to loan you $150 million. That haggling has gone on for decades. That's how it works. And then in this case, even, the bank that was supposedly defrauded testified and said, we didn't lose anything. We want to do business with this guy again. We'd like to. But the judge said, no, 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 no. Let's penalize this developer for $355 million. And if we're going to do that, let's penalize all the developers all across America. They've all done the same thing. All of them should go to jail, and we should stop building buildings. That's what the message is from New York. Even the governor herself is concerned about what this looks like to investors all around the world. It's not just U.S. domestic. All around the world, people are talking about what happened here. You really think people want to invest money in New York after this? How about we go somewhere else?